Well, according to my computer, it looks like it's 1:30, and if I scroll through everybody at the top, I think we have a quorum. So, Jessica, if you wouldn't mind confirming that, I would appreciate it, and then we can get started.
Sure, no problem. Let me catch up real fast on getting everyone, and I'll go right down your list here. One here. Everybody hopped on all at the same time. And Tim. Okay, so I'm gonna go down the list and I'll just name everybody that I see. If I missed you, just give me a shout afterwards and I will make sure to include you. Okay, got most everybody. Okay, so I see Kathleen, Wendy, Andy, Lachelle, Junior, Tim, Gail, Victoria, Anton, Aaron, Kristen, Rick, Brandy, Debbie, Darren, PPACG staff. Is there TAC members that I missed? I didn't see hop on yet.
Ellie Riley.
Sally, hello.
And this is Jason Dosh.
Jason, all right.
Sorry, Brian.
Grubenic with Manitou.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And who else was that last one? Sorry.
That's Dole Grubenic with Manitou.
Oh, hi there.
And Karen Birchtold with Manitou.
Perfect. Thank you. Gotcha all. All right. So you definitely have your quorum. You are good to go. Just remember when making a motion to state your name so it's recorded and easy to get. Sometimes we talk over each other. And Brandy, back to you.
Thanks, Jessica. Introductions are just not the same as they used to be, so welcome everybody. Are there any changes to the agenda? Wonderful. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Brian. I'll move approval of the agenda.
This is Anton with the second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have approved the agenda. Is anyone in the meeting want to talk under public comment for items that are not on the agenda? And I'll give it some time to stall because I know finding the unmute mute button isn't as easy as we want it to be. So. Okay, well, I think we will move on to approval of the minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Victoria, move approval.
Anton with the second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes have been approved. John, I haven't scrolled through here. I don't know if it's you or Catherine that's going to do the board of directors report.
All right, it's,
There you are.
hi, everybody. Happy holidays. So the board met on December 9th. As far as items of concern for you guys, well, first off, not necessarily technically of concern, but it was just a real good sort of feel-good moment. Under the public comments and presentations portion of the presentation, Normstein was given the inaugural Communities Working Together Award, and citing a lot of the qualities of the late Neil Levy as a community and regional leader. It was a nice moment remembering Neil as well as honoring Norm. Farewell to the outgoing board members was also an item there. So because he got elected to the state House. Andy Pico will no longer have any more meetings with us. And Norm Steen is also grandfathered out. So those two gentlemen had their last meeting with PPACG in December. As far as items, we did have the presentation by Alisa Babler. I think I pronounced that right, on the CDOT statewide safety plan and targeted setting. She gave the sort of the overall overview to the board. And then I think, Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, that was just an information item, and we'll bring back the targets to the board next month for action. Then under the action items, we had the functional classification change for monument was approved, and Catherine can maybe give an update on that, or the CDOT folks when we get to the CDOT report. But that has been now moved from PPACG onto CDOT to work on. We also approved. Is I say something, or is that the slow clap for? Oh, okay. And then we also had a tip amendment number 7 was approved. I think that's about it as far as the things that are all on your radar screen. So unless there's any questions, we can move on to the next item.
Any questions or comments for John? Thank you for that great report. Item 6, action items, 2021 officer elections.
Not it.
Yeah, I think this will probably be a fun conversation item. We've kind of had the same 3 people rotating, at least for the last 4 years. So we'd like to get some new people into these positions. As far as I can tell, and it might be in that sheet that is right in front of us, basically it's 2 years. So I think we've come to the point that it's been 2 years since we've gone through this exercise. So we would really love someone new to be in that chair position, and we hope someone's thought long and hard and decided there's nothing they'd love more than being the chair of the TAC. And I kind of open it up to the floor if anybody's had any conversations or has any suggestions.
While you're thinking about it, can I just say Catherine and I are really fun to work with.
They are, they're fantastic. So is Jessica.
Yeah, that's the main perk of the job. Yeah. This is Brian. I agree with Brandy. You know, between Brandy and Victoria and myself, you know, we've kind of rotated between chair, first vice chair, and second vice chair. And I would really love to see a few other members, you know, take some of these officer positions. And I would go as far as saying as a potential slate that we could consider, you know, Sally Riley from Woodland Park and Karen Birchtold from Manitou, and maybe Jason Dosh from Palmer Lake. And I could let you all discuss that among yourselves about who you would want to be chair. But those would be the 3 that I would love to see seek these positions.
Well,
Would you go-
Brian, this is Sally. I appreciate the vote of confidence or influence there, but I am going to be extremely busy next year with a comprehensive plan update and zoning update, and then retiring at the end of the year. If I certainly could not do chair, I could potentially stay on and help with first or second vice chair.
Would any of you that have served in those capacities give a brief narrative or description of what kind of commitment, time, effort is maybe needed?
Yeah, I can do that. So obviously I'm currently the chair. So Mostly I have Jessica send me the agenda about a week before the meeting and just double check it for dates and times and items that are on the agenda. And then once her, Catherine, John, and I are on the same page, we send that out to the rest of the committee. And much like Sally, I'm very busy. So usually by the time the board meeting rolls around, I send John an email and beg profusely that he covers for me at the board meeting. So in a normal non-COVID world, the chair would actually attend the board meetings and then give the report. They've kind of changed it a little bit differently, and maybe John, you could touch on what's happening in the now COVID world as to how that is brought up. I know that we send them all the information from the meetings, but are they even getting to the point that there's a report out in the meeting, John?
No, in the COVID world, the virtual meetings, all of the committee reports, with the exception of the STAC report by the STAC representative for the region and the CDOT report, all of those things are now just written reports that are in the packet. So after COVID, that might change back and we might have in-person reports, or it could stay where, again, they just remain written reports. Because I think the board does like to have a streamlined meeting. And you know, it's one of those things where everyone kind of gets up and says, you have the report in the packet, please let me know if you have any questions. Well, after that happens 5 times in a row, I think people are sort of getting that they could just do their homework and read up beforehand. But that being said, as Brandy had mentioned, there's always the vice chair that can help cover. And if the chair and the vice chair aren't either tuned into the meeting or at the meeting in person, Catherine and I can cover for you. Not a problem.
Does that help answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
And Dole, if I can carry on from what Brandy said, you know, occasionally, you know, there might be an issue where, you know, there's like a task force that's formed. I know when I was chair in 17 and 18, we kind of looked at revising the not one penny extra policy. So there were some, you know, additional meetings that happened from that. But, you know, overall, it's not really a huge time commitment. And, you know, with all the experience from all the other TAC members, you know, it's a pretty great group of people to work with, and a lot of experience and institutional knowledge.
And this is Jason. I'm not opposed to, you know, maybe another year or two down the road, possibly taking on some of that. But I really feel like I'm still learning, and I don't know if I feel like I don't have the confidence quite yet to be leading the meeting when I'm still feel like I'm learning. So, like I said, I'm not opposed to maybe in the future, but I don't know if I'm quite ready yet.
One more question. Is it an annual thing? Would that start January 1st of 2021 and it's a 2-year general commitment? I mean, in normal times, maybe?
I think technically it is actually 1-year commitment. We have the elections every year. I think what Brandy is saying that historically, if you do the job 1 year, the group is more than happy to let you do it a second year, just to sort of keep things going as far as consistency. So you're not necessarily signing on for 2 years, but no one's going to stop you if you wanted to keep for a second year.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are limited then to 2 years in each position.
I don't remember the rule, but that sounds about right. There is some sort of thing there, but I don't have that memorized. So it could be, if that's what you remember, I'm going to go with whatever you remember, because I don't have that committed to memory. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with Victoria, because that's when we rearranged the deck chairs and all swapped positions. So I'm assuming we were term limited. Otherwise, we probably would have just begged Brian to be chair forever, but I don't think that was an option. So Brian was excited that he was term limited.
So Dole, are you interested?
Yeah, this is Tim. I was going to ask the same. Dole, it sounds like maybe there's some interest there.
I am interested, which is ironic because I probably know the least about it, which is maybe I'm just ignorant enough to think it might be a good idea. I just need to check. My other question would be how quickly, I mean, does a decision need to be made as this meeting is wrapping up, or a decision need to be made by the beginning of the year?
It happens after I make the motion that you serve as chair, Sally as vice chair, and Jason as second vice chair.
Well, I think Sally said no thanks, but no thanks.
Well, she said she could serve as vice chair.
Vice chair. I could
That's
do
true.
vice chair.
I
You
second
can
the
do
motion.
this.
This is Brian. I second that motion.
Famous
Dole,
last
this
words.
is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Dole, this is Wendy. You can do this. I have every faith in the world that you can do this. And you've got the greatest support system. You've got me, you got John, you got Catherine. You can do this. And you got Brandy to give you tips from her experience, and Brian, and you can do this, honestly.
Okay, on that, let's do it.
All right, I'll let you take it from there, Brandy. My
All right.
motion stands.
All right, so Tim's official motion. Dole as chair, Sally as vice chair, Jason as second vice chair. And Brian was our second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Perfect.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We appreciate that, all of you.
Yep,
And
thank
again, Brian, Victoria, and I are all here if you ever have any questions.
Well, I think that Manitou has struggled with turnover in the past, and so maybe it's time for Manitou to step up and contribute a little bit back to this group. So happy to do it.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you to all three.
Yep,
Yes.
that's great. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Famous.
And condolences.
Yeah, I was going to say.
All right, we are ready for information items 7A, CDOT updates. Who wants to start?
This is Kathleen. We had a pretty interesting Transportation Commission meeting, lots of planning topics covered. We didn't have STAC this past month or statewide MPO, but we did have Commissioner Hickey sworn in at the Transportation Commission meeting. We also had a state of the plan report that talked about new online tools that track progress of the 2045 statewide plan, along with the 10-year pipeline of projects. There's a new link of information. It's Your Transportation Plan, or ytp.co.org is the website. I'll send Jessica a link to this website. It has a lot of new information on the status of projects in a story map version, a GIS mapping tool, as well as an accountability dashboard that explains the funding that's available for the projects and their status. So that's really good information to have. We also have Eric Sabina gave a presentation on how vehicle miles of travel data is collected and used at CDOT. We also have a link on YouTube to a truck safety video that alerts truck drivers coming across the I-70 corridor what to prepare for in terms of traveling that corridor, being safe, being prepared for weather changes, the geography, etc. We also had an overview of the Scenic Byways program. That is, other online tools are now available for that program for people to use. And it's a perfect thing during COVID to get on the highway and just drive the Scenic Byways. So that's something to consider. And then there is a memo about an update to the Policy Directive 1601, which is the interchange approval process. There's going to be another update to the TC in January. And then the idea is that the final policy directive would be adopted in either February or March. CDOT is also seeking applications for a land use planner and a planning internship, if anyone is interested in those two positions. And then in terms of staff changes, Aaron Willis is now serving as the acting statewide planning section manager, and Marissa Gahan is now the new multimodal planning branch manager, and she is taking over for Tim Kirby. So that's the news from HQ. I don't know if Wendy or Lachelle or anybody else has any updates from CDOT.
Hey, Kathleen, before Wendy or Lachelle jump in, you mentioned Commissioner Hickey. I'm not sure that everyone's aware. Commissioner Hickey, and I forget her, it says it Lisa, and then is it Moen Hickey? I forget.
It's Lisa Tour Moen Hickey, and she represents District 9, which is your area, which is El Paso, Fremont Park, and Teller counties.
So she's a replacement for Irv Holter. So just in case people didn't know the name, when you said commissioner was sworn in, they'd be like, well, which commissioner is that?
Sorry about that. Yes, thanks for clarifying that, John.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, Kathleen,
Yeah, Wendy?
can we get somebody to demonstrate that dashboard and that information that you talked about at one of the TAC meetings?
Sure, and I can also, I can check into that, and also send the presentation materials. I compiled all the planning topic stuff along with the PD 1601 update into one packet, and I can send that to Jessica along with a link to the website, and then we can maybe demo it next time.
That's a great idea. The only thing I have to update from the region is the fact that we're going through and adding fiscal year 2025 to the STIP. So next month there will be some TIP amendments that come forward for RPP and any asset changes that need to happen. I have some changes I'm told need to happen to surface treatment again. So that's all I have at this point.
Hey, Wendy, is that,
Yes.
is those changes the things that we talked about with you and Rich and
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it's going to, just so everybody knows, it's sort of rearranging it a little bit and spreading it out a little more. Plus, it also provides a little more flexibility. So it certainly sounds like a great idea. So I'm looking forward to that coming to you guys next month.
Great.
This is Lachelle. The only thing that I have is that the Highway Safety Improvement Program has a call for projects. And those applications are due no later than January 31st.
Did an email go out on that, Lachelle? Is that an email we can forward on to the TAC members to make sure that they have it in front of them?
Yes, and I believe it did go out. I think Jessica sent it out.
Okay, good. So
That's correct, yes.
make sure. One other quick note. I think we were anticipating that when the state legislature met on the emergency funding, there would be a provision in there for transportation. There was not, but I think it's going to be addressed in the regular session here that's going to start next month. And I think part of the governor's proposal for that is there's going to be a Main Street program. And from what I understand, Rich has reached out to Rebecca White to do a presentation to the TAC next month on the Main Street program. So you guys can get some understanding of what sort of projects are eligible. And the way I understand it, the way it works in Colorado, and I'm still learning, but I'm getting better every day. This pot of money will be available statewide, and if nobody in El Paso County takes advantage of it, then we don't get a share of it. So the money is there, and so hopefully you guys will take a look at it and make applications to the state for it if you've got some projects that sort of fit in. But I think a lot of the Main Street things are things like routing some pedestrian parking and pedestrian facilities to encourage outdoor dining and other things along those lines. So I think Rebecca White will be here next month to chat about that.
Any questions for CDOT? Thank you, everybody. Safety target setting. Catherine?
Thanks, Brandy. Yes, Catherine Wenger, Transportation Planner, PPACG. So every year we do have to set our annual safety targets. And so these are part of our performance measures that we use to track and maximize our benefits of our transportation planning dollars. And it's a requirement by federal highway. So each year we have to set new targets for the safety in particular, and there's other targets we have to set as well on like a 4-year basis. These ones are safety specific, and as an MPO we can either support the state targets or we can set our own regional targets based on updated data every year. The last, I think it's been 3 or 4 years now, we've chosen, you all have chosen to support the state targets, and so that's our recommendation again as well. These targets you see on your memo are the updated ones from CDOT. And just as a note, they did do, as John actually mentioned, Alyssa Babler from CDOT brought a presentation to the board to talk about how they did a new safety plan, and they updated how they were setting targets based on that new safety plan and their goal of 0 deaths. So they did, I think they went a little bit more, they tried a little harder to make the targets more, I can't think of the word right now, but they're not quite as, I can't think right now. Sorry, I've had a headache for most of the day and yesterday, so my brain's kind of not working. But anyways, these new targets are based on kind of their new goals that they set in that safety plan. And so this is just for information this month, and I'll bring it back to you next month for proposed action. I'm happy to take any questions, and there's more detail in the packet regarding what Alyssa brought to the board.
Where you going?
Lakey.
Are there any questions for Catherine? Okay, well then I will tag on and say, yes, let's do what we did last time, Catherine. I think that was our best course of action. So I agree with the proposal you've got in front of us.
Thank you.
I second Brandy's emotion. Since it's not a motion.
Right.
Sounds good.
Item 7C, PM2 and PM3 target setting updates. Catherine?
Yes, thank you. So similar to what I just mentioned with the safety targets, these ones are actually for the 4-year ones, or as CDOT updates it. So CDOT actually just did a mid-year report and review of their pavement targets and their and other ones as well. And they did make updates to their pavement targets that we are required to set as well. And so since CDOT made updates based from their ones that they set 2 years ago, which we approved to support, we also have to update our targets. And again, as an MPO, we can either choose to do our own, or we can support the state targets in these ones as well. And we've supported the state targets before. So these are the new ones in your memo for the updated targets. Their percentage of pavement on the interstate system in good condition, and then percent that are poor, and then percentage of pavement on non-interstates in good condition, and then pavement and non-interstate in poor condition. And so these are the targets they set. There's some more information in your packet regarding what the state numbers are and what our regional numbers are. It talks about PPACG's, how we're doing, if you'd like some more background on that. But again, I would recommend supporting the state targets again, which we do through our project selection process. But I'm happy to obviously we're happy to entertain if we want to do our own regional targets as well. And I can take any questions.
Any questions for Catherine? And again, I'm okay going with what we have unless somebody here would like to chair a committee to change these numbers. Wonderful. I will take silence as consent. Looks lovely, Catherine, and we look forward to seeing it in the future.
Thank you.
7D, 2020-2024 planning cycle. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Northrup. I'm a Senior Transportation Planner at PPACG. For those of you that don't know me, I've been at PPACG for a little over a year. This past summer, I've been given the responsibility of handling the long-range plan. So moving forward, you'll see a lot of me in the future. So with that, let's get started. So today I wanted to provide you with an overview of staff proposals for the upcoming transportation planning cycle, including the development of the 2050 long-range transportation plan. The information I'm providing today is available in your packet under agenda item 7D. So I'll be focusing on 3 areas today. First, I'll be going over the federal requirements. This will be followed by staff recommendations. And finally, I'll be providing the proposed schedules for the next planning cycle and 2050 RTP. So here are the planning products and activities that transportation planning and environment staff are required to do or will be required to conduct during the next planning cycle if circumstances change. The first gray bullet I have listed refers to the public engagement documents that need to be updated. Staff needs to update 3 public engagement plans during the next cycle. These include the Title VI and Environmental Justice Plan, the Limited Acreage Proficiency Plan, or LEP plan, and the Public Participation Plan, or PPP. Although these plans were adopted in February of 2019, they were developed with the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan in mind, so only minor updates will be conducted. The updates made to these plans will ensure they reflect current federal planning requirements. The second gray bullet I have listed refers to potential air quality requirements during the next planning cycle. PPACG has responsibilities to ensure its transportation plans and programs support state and federal air quality goals and meet air quality standards. The Pikes Peak region is currently in compliance with the critical pollutants within the Clean Air Act and is therefore not required to show conformity. However, as many of you know, there is concern about the pollutant ozone. In the event the region does break a critical pollutant standard like ozone, PPACG staff would be required to conduct conformity determinations and demonstrate that the Pikes Peak region is meeting federal requirements before transportation plans and programs are adopted. The third gray bullet I have listed refers to a congestion management process update. The congestion management process, a requirement in metropolitan areas with a population exceeding 200,000, is a systematic and reasonably accepted approach for managing congestion. It provides accurate and updated information on system performance and assesses alternative strategies for congestion management. During the next planning cycle, corridor classifications will be examined as part of the congestion management process. PPACG staff and committee members might analyze data to determine roadway classifications and/or roadway congestion, determine if updates are needed to the congestion management process toolbox, and potentially use corridors as part of the scoring criteria for the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program. The fourth and final gray bullet I've listed refers to an update of the Transit Plan and Coordinated Plan, also referred to as the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. Mountain Metro and PPACG staff will be doing an update to both the Transit Plan and Coordinated Plan during the next planning cycle. And both plans will be incorporated into the 2050 RTP.
Hey, Mark.
Here are the planning products and activities that staff are recommending for the next planning cycle. The first great bullet I have listed refers to PPACG's public engagement and general plan approach during the next planning cycle.
John, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mark. It's not a question, but I did want to let everybody know that slide had the federal requirements. And since we had our sort of retreat to discuss all of this, since then, the state has released its greenhouse gas roadmap. And it just should be noted that there might be an update later that would add a slide that says state requirements, because the state requirements for the greenhouse gas roadmap may require us to do some different things to reduce greenhouse gases. These are not federal requirements, but these are state requirements, and they'll be in addition to what we're doing. I think we just have to wait and see what happens with the greenhouse gas roadmap and how it's going to get implemented over time. But it certainly could add some things, and I just wanted you to all be aware of that. Mark, you had a rhythm going there. I apologize for interrupting you. But I did want to make sure that everybody knew. Just because we're working within the federal framework doesn't mean the state cannot and will not impose additional requirements on us. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. Thanks, John. So as I was saying, the first bullet I have listed refers to PPACG's public engagement and general plan approach during the next cycle. Staff is recommending environmental justice, or EJ, be integrated into the plan development process in a more meaningful way to make good use of staff time and ensure that federal requirements are met. It's been found that the FHWA and FDA are paying more attention to EJ and limit English proficiency and expect greater effort and more detailed plans and tracking. The second great bullet I have listed refers to PPACG's recommended forecast approach for the 2050 RTP. The goal for the next regional forecast is to create a composite of future growth based primarily on member government's own development plans and projections. This forecast can be shared alongside other plans, providing for a more comprehensive picture of growth in the region. PPACG's Regional Planning Forum will be used to compare any discrepancies between plans and discuss preferred alternatives. The third great bullet I have listed refers to development of an active transportation plan. Staff is recommending an active transportation plan, or ATP, update during the next planning cycle. ATPs support things like transportation choices, health, community feeling, special events, economic development and tourism, as well as a sense of place and safety. There currently is an ATP, the Regional Non-Motorized Transportation System Plan, that was developed by PPACG, but it was done in 2015, so an update is due. Active transportation plans are typically updated every 1 to 2 planning cycles. Also, rapid growth of the region has changed the transportation landscape, with more people needing to get around by foot and bicycle. Bicycle and pedestrian deaths have been increasing in the last few years, especially pedestrian, before and since COVID-19. And COVID-19 has changed the role of bicycle and pedestrian transportation, as well as micromobility. The fourth and final great bullet I have listed refers to development of a freight study during the next cycle. There currently is no freight plan produced by PPACG, and most medium to large NPOs have a freight plan. A freight study could help lay the foundation for a plan or assess the regional freight system and resolve conflicts and safety issues involving freight. Also, freight volumes are rapidly increasing and freight type and mode are changing, such as truck size, as well as delivery modes and technologies. So now I'm going to go over the proposed schedules for the 2024 transportation planning cycle and the 2050 long range transportation plan. I first want to provide everyone with an overview of the next planning cycle schedule and how it relates to the development of the 2050 RTP. The first main component of the table under the seasons row are plan elements, studies, and updates. In 2021, we'll be conducting the congestion management process update, as well as a tri-county study and freight study. Over the course of a year, between the spring of 22 and spring of 23, we're looking at developing the active transportation plan and potentially developing both transit-related plans. The development of the transit plan will ultimately be determined by Mountain Metro's schedule, since they are the ones leading the effort. The second component of the table under plan elements, studies, and updates is public engagement plans. In the spring and summer of 22, we'll be making minor updates to the Title VI plan, the Limit English Proficiency Plan, or LEP plan, and the Public Participation Plan, or PPP. The third component of the table under public engagement plans is the 2050 LRTP. The 2050 LRTP will be a 2-year process. It will kick off with pre-plan efforts in the summer and fall of 22. This will be followed by the development of the plan beginning in the winter of 22, extending into the end of 24, and concluding in early 25 with the plan's adoption. In the next slide, I'll be going over the 2050 RTP schedule in greater detail. So in the table, I've broken up the plan development process into 6 phases. The first phase of the plan's development on the far left is called the pre-plan kickoff phase. This phase will occur in the summer and fall of 22. Public engagement efforts will be the focus. There will be an open house or a public meeting held in the beginning of this phase. The plan document itself will begin to get laid out, and the model and JS team will begin their pre-plan efforts. Also, in terms of public engagement, staff will identify public engagement contacts, particularly related to environmental justice, put together contact lists, and do some preliminary environmental justice analysis. The next phase is called Phase 1. Phase 1 will begin in the winter of 22 and conclude in the spring of 23. During this phase, the plan's vision, goals, and objectives will be the focus, along with an inventory of current conditions and identification of needs. The financial plan will begin, along with further development of the forecast and other JS-related efforts. Public outreach will be directed towards the focus areas I talked about for Phase 1. Phase 1 is then followed by Phase 2. Phase 2 will occur in the summer and fall of 23. Regional strategies, implementation priorities, performance measures, and project scoring criteria will be the focus. Staff will continue to develop the financial plan as well as forecast and JS efforts. Public outreach will be directed towards the focus areas I talked about for Phase 2. Phase 2 is followed by Phase 3. Phase 3 will begin in the winter of 23 and conclude in the summer of 24. During this phase, the project list will be developed and finalized. The financial plan will be completed. The mobility elements I referred to earlier, such as the active transportation plan, will be incorporated into the RTP, and the forecast and JS efforts will be completed. Staff will also evaluate projects developed during this phase and examine their potential environmental justice impacts. Phase 3 is then followed by Phase 4. Phase 4 will occur in the summer and fall of 24. During this phase, the focus will be on the draft plan. The chapters of the RTP will be reviewed, and a draft plan will be completed. This phase will conclude with a 30-day public review period and a public hearing. The final phase of the plan's development is called the plan wrap-up phase. This phase will begin in the winter of 24 and conclude in early 25. During this phase, the plan will go through its final review. You'll have the opportunity to review any public comments received, and the plan is ultimately scheduled for adoption in January 25. The one other thing I want to mention concerning the development of the 2050 RTP is the formation of an advisory committee. This committee, recommended by PPACG staff, would be responsible for helping to guide the plan development process, including public participation. The committee would be comprised of interested parties in the state and region, including public agencies, local jurisdictions, and stakeholder groups. It'd be called the Regional Transportation Plan Advisory Committee, or RATPAC for short. So that concludes my presentation on the proposal for the upcoming planning cycle. The information presented today will be going to the board for action in January. And I've listed my contact information in case you want to follow up with me. So with that, does anyone have any comments or questions?
Mark, this is Karen from Manitou Springs. I was curious, it looks like the Tri-County study is coming up this summer, and I just wondered what that involves.
John, can you fill in for Jason on this? Maybe?
Sure. Yeah, the Tri-County study has actually been in the works for a little while, and thanks to Wendy and CDOT for helping it come to fruition. A lot of our plans and studies always talk about things at the sort of the state level, right? So we talk about the state system. The Tri-County system, the Tri-County study is intended to take it down to that regional level and talk about the connections right below those state connections. So how do we connect between the different regions, between the different counties within our region? and between the different jurisdictions within our region. It's intended to be multimodal, so we'll talk about express bus opportunities and other opportunities, as well as operational opportunities. Again, how we can just interact and do things better on that sort of county level. So that's it sort of in a nutshell. We were looking to finally get this kicked off. It's been a while. I think COVID set us back some, but I think we're finally to the point we're getting a notice to proceed from CDOT relatively shortly. It'll go through the PPACG procurement process. We'll get a consultant on board and we'll get this thing kicked off. Wendy, do you want to add to anything to that?
No, I think you covered it quite well. I had another couple of questions for Mark, though.
Thank you.
So, Mark, one thing I think you're going to have to figure out how we work the schedule to kind of coincide with our collaborative process that we use to figure out what revenues are. So our long-range plan should also be underway in some way, shape, or form during that same time frame, and you'll need to figure out how you join up with the folks out of DTD to get funding allocation information and be part of that group that works on that collaborative effort. And when you said stakeholders in your work group, were you looking for like someone from CDOT to be on that group as well?
Yeah, for sure. And John,
my suggestion.
I was just going to say that John was kind of the forefront leader as far as coming up with that idea. So I don't know if he wanted to chime in as well on that in terms of that group.
Yes, so Wendy, not only will CDOT be involved, you probably have more than one representative on that stakeholder group, the Rat Pack, as I like to call it. And by the way, I did come up with the name Rat Pack, and I do have dibs on Joey Bishop. Besides that, we have to sort of cover all of the different disciplines. So we can't just, we're not expecting one person from CDOT to sort of cover everything. So there'll be someone from planning on CDOT that would be on the stakeholder group, but we'll probably also need to get someone from the engineering group or the transportation group, you know, someone like Jason to do it. So there'll be probably 2 or 3 different disciplines from CDOT covered on that committee.
So my suggestion to you would be to make sure that you have Rob Fry involved in that work group, because I will not be here to see that till its end. And I want him to learn what he needs to know about the MPO and how it works. And that's a perfect way for him to have to learn, is to be on that group.
I'm sorry, Wendy, what's his name again? I didn't catch it.
Rob Fry, he's my supervisor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I know Rob. Mark, I can get the contact information. Yeah, we will definitely reach out to Rob and do that. But you know, you're assuming that we're going to accept your retirement. We get to vote on it, don't we?
I'm running. I'm not going to even give you a chance to stop me.
I'm pretty sure you and Sally think you're leaving, but I'm not sure that's really going to happen. Yes, Wendy, we'll make sure that. But that being said, I think there's definitely room around the table to have you and Rob to help with that transition of knowledge.
I agree.
Long term. So
I agree, but I just want him to be responsible, and I want you to hold him responsible till the end, because I want him to be able to learn what he needs to know, because this is his one and only chance to do that, because whoever comes behind me won't have that knowledge, and I want to be able to be sure he has that knowledge to help that person learn.
Gotcha.
And I know maybe that's a little selfish on my part, but you have always been, the group there at PPACG has always been a priority for me, and I don't want to leave anything to chance.
We appreciate that, Wendy.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that vote on Wendy's retirement and whether or not we approve it.
I definitely won't. This is Kathleen.
have a question for Mark regarding kind of the stakeholder process, and I can always just email you offline, but we're trying to get a rather large rail park down within the city of Fountain city limits, and just wanted to know if that would play a role in any of these planning efforts. And if you don't have an answer now, that's fine. Again, we can talk offline.
Well,
Yeah, why don't we just talk offline? John, probably a good idea to be a part of that as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Include you both.
But Brandy, I will say again, remember there's sort of the first part of Mark's presentation are the plans that are mode specific and then roll up into the long range plan. And Mark did mention a freight study. Now, we didn't call it a freight plan just because we didn't have the time and the effort and the money, quite frankly, to do a full-fledged freight plan. But the freight study, we'll reach out to Kimberly Bailey and have her part of that effort to make sure that that gets incorporated into the study. And then outcomes of that study will then roll into the long range plan. So yes, the long range plan will be multimodal, and that will include freight. So Kimberly will be part of the process. As far as the stakeholders group is concerned, we have a process by there, which there's an agency can choose to participate in all the stakeholder meetings, but there's also something called a process the feds recognize called coordination. So what it could be is Kimberly might opt to come to the 4 or 5 stakeholder meetings, or Kimberly might opt to be a coordinating agency where we just have a meeting with her where we sort of sit down after we've gotten some of the preliminary stuff done. And we say, hey, this is the information we have. What's your input? She gives us the input, and we do it from there. I suspect a lot of the environmental state agencies are going to be coordinating agencies rather than participating agencies just because of the time and effort involved with coming to all of the stakeholder meetings. But Kimberly can sort of decide for herself if she wants to come to all of them or just one.
Okay, and that sounds good. Sounds good. I'll just make an introduction so Mark has her contact info.
Awesome, thank you.
Also, this is Kathleen. I just wanted to say that the freight office at CDOT will be very interested in the freight planning aspects of your plan for 2050 as well. So a lot of the work that I'm doing currently is with the freight office, with Michelle Sharman, who leads freight planning, and Craig Hurst, who leads the office and does the permitting aspect of things as well.
Does anybody have any more questions for Mark? Comments, statements?
Yeah, Brandy, this is Brian. Can I just ask a couple of quick questions?
Go for it.
All right, Mark, this is really helpful, and it sure shows that you all have your work cut out for you over the next several years, but it's really good to see it in, a format that, really makes sense. And, each year you have your targets identified and what's going to be done. Just the first question is, all of the components that are going to be making up the 2050 plan, like the freight plan and the active transportation plan, do you all intend to do this in-house, or will you be seeking professional services for some of these plans, or do you have another way of getting it all done?
I hate to deflect the question, but I'm probably going to ask John on this because he probably has more insight than I do.
Well, let me start out by saying that I appreciate you wording it that way, Brian, that we're getting professional services rather than getting professional help. But as far as the breakdown, I think, again, quite frankly, there was not enough money to do the freight plan, which is why it's a freight study, and that will be done in-house. So Jason O'Brien's going to do the heavy lifting there. Active transportation plan, there should be money in the budget to hire a consultant, but again, we'll have Jason O'Brien sort of manage the consultant and do the heavy lift, but there will be a consultant contract associated with that. A lot of the parts of the long-range plan will be done in-house. However, we will probably consultant help with the modeling and the on-call sort of technical stuff. Whether or not we get a consultant for the public involvement part of it, I think we just have to wait till we get a little closer into 22. And then finally, the transit stuff. Again, we're anticipating that we will have consultant fund money set aside to partner with MMT on the long-range transit plan as well as the specialized human services plan. So again, not sure it's the amount of money you guys would like, because if I remember correctly, you guys paid a lot of it, or at least you were able to maybe get some money for CDOT that paid for most of it. And ours was kind of chump change that was thrown in. Unfortunately, I think we're still going to be throwing chump change into it, but we will participate financially.
Okay.
Answer the question. I know it's not a lot of detail, but hey, it's still 4 or 5 years out. So
no, that answers that. Yeah, that's a great answer, and yeah, it is a lot of work, and I know a lot of it you can do in house. But I was just wondering about some of those bigger efforts. But yeah, that makes sense. And my last question, and I'm sure you've thought of this, and I'm sure it's fine, but it looks like it's going to be a 5-year gap between the 2045 plan adoption and the 2050 plan adoption. I'm assuming that's meeting all federal and state requirements for adopting a new plan.
Yes, it used to be, it was a 4-year cycle, but because we're in attainment now,
okay,
the next clock started at 5 years. If we become in non-attainment for ozone or something else in the meantime, because our plan of record was that doesn't change our timeline. The only thing that you all need to be concerned about, and again, I don't want to speak for Aaron and our FHWA partners and our FTA partners, and I think I saw Kristen on the phone. So if they want to be lax and let us do it, that's great. But the way I've always understood the rule to be, if we needed to do an amendment for any reason, so right now, if we just keep with the existing plan, it's 2025. If we go into ozone non-attainment in 22, and we need to do an update for a brand new project for Amazon or whatever in 23, we can't update the existing plan because it's no longer in conformance with the thing. So that way, then we'd have to sort of do a whole new plan. So amendments can't happen unless you're in compliance. Right now, we're in compliance. Provided we don't need any amendments, we can go in 2025. If something weird happens where we're no longer in attainment and an amendment is needed, that's a whole new ballgame. So right now, this is the timeline, assuming no amendments are needed before anything weird or wicked happens where we'd be in non-attainment. Probably a long and complicated answer for, yeah, we're good for now, but anything can happen.
Yeah. Okay. Now that makes sense. Thank you. And good job, Mark. Looks good.
Thank you. Actually, Brian, could I ask you a question? I mean, this is, what were your thoughts as far as I know I kind of put it to be determined as far as the transit plan is concerned.
No,
we're talking about, but did that feel more or less comfortable to you as far as the timeline?
The timeline looks really good. I know in the past and it hasn't always worked out this way. We would like to have our transit plan done well in advance of, the brunt of the work being done on your regional plan. And that timeline looks really good. And I know, we'll probably be, as John said, with the 2045 plan, we did get a 5304 planning grant to help with the development of the 2045 plan, and we'll probably be seeking that for the next effort. But yeah, that timeline looks real good, and if we can, I believe it was starting in spring of 2023. Yeah, and going for about a year or so. Spring of 2022. Sorry. Yeah, that still looks good. Yeah.
Right.
Looks
Yeah,
good.
no, it's important to get your buy-in on that. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, question from Victoria. How do you see the TAC and the advisory committee interacting?
Hey, John. Since he's the one that came up with this, I'll keep deflecting the questions on that to him for now.
Sure. Well, I see it interacting, and again, this comes from my personal experience of doing long-range plans before, you know, back in that other state that starts with an A and ends with an A and is in Alabama or Alaska. So the idea is that a lot of the people that are on the TAC are probably also going to be part of the Rat Pack. This way, we can still sort of streamline those the TAC meetings and not have them get bogged down. I remember when I first came here, you know, 2 years ago, I think you guys had like an hour presentation on the skim or whatever of the whatever it is, urban sim skim, and I think it sort of bogs down the meetings. So the idea is that we can then sort of focus the things that we're talking about for the long range plan to those stakeholder meetings and get more. I do see the stakeholder committee as, how do I put this? I don't want to say, it's a step in the process that happens before the TAC. So if the stakeholder committee says, hey, we'd like to see snowshoes be prioritized in the next long range plan, and we want 20% of all of the tip money to go to snowshoes, that recommendation is going to go to the technical advisory committee next, you guys as a TAC. Then you could say, well, that's just plain silly. We don't have that many people doing it, and we do not support that recommendation. So their meetings are going to happen first, and anything that they sort of say is going to come through you guys to have a voice on, because you are the technical experts. I'm not sure if that's sort of the information you're looking for, but that's the way I envision it. Is there something I'm missing that you want me to address?
No, I'm just being selfish and thinking about my own schedule and having to go to 2 meetings instead of 1 this time around.
Yeah, in theory, it should be the same amount of time, because we're not going to, for example, if there is a stakeholder meeting that you don't want to go to, then you just don't go to it, because again, you can make sure that you'll see it at the TAC. But again, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I felt that some TAC meetings a couple years ago were really much longer because we kept on bringing a whole bunch of long range plan stuff to you guys that didn't need to be sort of worked out at that level. I think the nuts and bolts of it could have happened at again, the stakeholder meeting kind of meeting.
So is this sort of a subcommittee of the TAC with additional members so that the TAC sort of is the approval of the subcommittee?
I didn't think of it that way, but I think that we could talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mark/John? Comments? Questions? Nothing? Okay, member entity announcements. Other than everyone retiring before me, any other member entity announcements?
If I could just say something real quick, this is Brian. We are looking to wrap up our North Nevada Transit Connectivity Study by the end of this year. And just on Monday, we had our final stakeholder meetings. So, we have a technical advisory committee and a citizens advisory committee. So we had the third and final round of those meetings on Monday. And last evening, we had our final public meeting on that. So it's you know, it's taken a little bit longer. You know, there were some challenges this summer with everything. But we believe there's, you know, some really good recommendations. I'd urge you all to visit the project website. If you go to the main Colorado Springs website and scroll down, there's a Engage COS section, and it identifies all the projects that are going on in the city, and that will take you to the project website. You can you know, catch up on what was done over the last year and a half and then see the final recommendations. But ultimately what we're proposing, you know, we are proposing as a locally preferred alternative for mode to be bus rapid transit light. But knowing that, you know, there will be further studies that need to be done, and if we seek federal funding, we'll have to do a NEPA environmental analyses, and we could look at, again, streetcar. Streetcar was one of the other top alternatives. So, but this study at least is recommending bus rapid transit light. So that's kind of entails a lower level of infrastructure investment. And as far as alignment goes, we're bringing forward two preferred alignments, both Nevada Avenue and Weber Street. And, you know, the city also has another pretty large effort going on, and that's the Connect COS effort. That's the city's master transportation plan. So we're looking to defer making a final decision on an alignment, but bringing both of those alignments, Nevada and Weber, into the Connect COS process, where it can be looked at, you know, from the network level or from a systems approach. And then, you know, that will hopefully go into making final decisions and coming up with a final project list to perhaps feed into PPRTA 3 in 2022. So it was, you know, an exciting effort, and really pleased with the process. The consultant team did a great job. We got an awful lot of public feedback. We had, you know, anywhere between 70 and 100 people tuning in last night. It was a virtual meeting. So that's really good public participation. And, you know, if you're interested in the project, you know, get connected to the Connect COS process, and you can continue to follow that. And, you know, thanks to all of you, or those of you who have served on either the TAC or the CAC or participated in the public meetings. Your contributions are welcome. So thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Does anybody else have any other announcements?
Brandy, this is Gail Sturdivant. I just want to make sure you saw my chat. I noticed on the TAC roster that my name is missing as the alternative there for the city of Colorado Springs. If we could just get that updated. Oh, it looks like Jessica responded. So thank you.
Sure, it's updated, and come the new year, all of the rosters will be updated on our website as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Any other member entity announcements? Go ahead. I feel like I heard a voice. Maybe not. Okay, Catherine, items for future TAC meetings.
Yes, we've got the safety targets and the other targets for action, and then we should have a tip amendment from CDOT, the one that Wendy mentioned earlier. So that's all I have for now.
And I think Rebecca White will be here to talk about the Main Street program.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, well then I will end it by wishing everybody a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I have no idea when we're gonna get to meet in person again, so we're just gonna keep these meetings virtual until further notice. So everybody enjoy your virtual holidays, your virtual New Year, and we will touch base in January. Anybody else want to add anything?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Hey, Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays, everybody. Stay
Happy
safe.
holidays. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.